Welcome to Talmudic Treasures. Today we're learning Nedarim, page 2. This is a new tractate which discusses a situation where a person wishes to make a vow or an oath, and by doing that, that will forbid that person from a particular item. So since this is Nedarim, it's talking about a situation where a person says that just like that sacrifice which is going to be brought in the temple, in which I personally am not allowed to derive benefit from, I'm also not going to derive any benefit from this particular loaf of bread. So if a person says it in that complete way, then it's very clear that he's comparing the bread to the offering, and therefore because of that, it's clear that that bread will be forbidden, and therefore his neder, what he is saying, is valid. And therefore he will no longer be able to eat that bread according to his words. Now, these laws are extremely complex because even if a person doesn't say it exactly that way, it could possibly work. If, for example, instead of using the word sacrifice, or in Hebrew karban, a person uses a kinui, a slang, which either could possibly mean that it's a totally different translated word like sacrifice, or it's a word which sounds like the Hebrew word karban, but the sages used a different, almost made-up word like it. So since we know what this person is getting at, so we say that it also is valid, even though he didn't exactly use the word sacrifice or carbon in Hebrew. Nonetheless, it's still considered to be valid. Also, if a person has what's called yad. A yad is a hand or a handle, which is translated here more loosely as an incomplete sentence. You did not say that this bread is going to be forbidden to me just like a karban. You left that last part out. But we say that it still is valid. And over here it's explained because what does it mean, a hand or a handle? Because if you have a mug, you don't need to lift up the entire mug with both hands in order to be able to drink from that mug. All you need to do is hold onto the small little handle, and once you lift up the handle, that will also lift up the entire cup. That is the visual which teaches us that so too, even if a person only says part, just like lifting up that handle, it's considered as though he lifted up the entire cup. Namely, we say that what he said was, in fact, a complete sentence. Now, the Talmud also tells us there is a significant difference between a neder and a shvuah. A shvuah is an oath. When it comes to making a promise that I'm going to forbid this particular bread, you're saying it on the object itself. I do not want this bread. However, when it comes to an oath, it's something in which you use a different language, and it's about yourself. You're making an oath that I will not eat a certain thing. So instead of the focus on the object, the focus is on the person. And on this, the Ramban, Nachmanides, points out that even if you reversed it and you didn't say the order so properly, the law is it still works, because it should be no different than when you said an incomplete sentence that we understand where you're coming from. And he says a very interesting language. He says, because your mouth and your heart are equal, therefore we will say that what you're saying, even if it's not exact, it will still be valid. And this teaches us an important lesson, that first of all, even though a person may not always say the right thing, may not always know how to articulate and to communicate and be the best orator and to know exactly the right words to say, but you as the listener, you should still be able to hopefully comprehend what that individual is trying to get at. And therefore, just as long as a person's heart and words are in the right place, even though it may not necessarily be 100% so perfect, nonetheless, we say what your words are, that they are considered to be valid.